Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Was she legitimately stupid? Or just really that self-absorbed? I'm honestly curious. Let's start our video with a story, after which you fine folks will also wonder. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. You don't want me to lie? Say goodbye to your sugar daddy. When I was fairly young, my parents separated and then divorced. My dad eventually moved to a small town up the coast. I stayed with my mom and soon-to-be stepdad. From ages 4 to 10, I lived with my mom and stepdad, spending holidays with my dad up the coast. A little after I turned 10, my mom asked what I wanted to do: live with my dad or come with them when they moved to a small mountain town. I opted to move with my dad. For the first year with my dad, it was fine. Poverty-stricken, but we managed. I finished grade 5, and over the summer, he decided he wanted to move and get a roommate. Except this roommate was a chick that I didn't like. There was something wrong with her that I couldn't figure out till I was older. I'm going to call her Victoria. Victoria immediately tried to supplant my mother. She would discipline me, teach me chores, etc. All things I'd need to learn regardless. What bothered me was my dad had the hots for her, and he basically just let her walk all over him. He ended up paying the majority of the bills, she took over the space, her word was law, etc. At some point, she got pregnant by her then boyfriend. He was a well-off musician with family money and lots of property. She scored. Was she happy with that? Nope. She would drive around with me in the car. One of the places she'd stop was some ramshackle trailer in the boonies. I was always left in the car when we went there. Sometimes Victoria would leave the trailer looking very disheveled, and a tall blonde guy would grab at her as she walked to the car. At the time, I was 11 years old and had a pretty good idea what she was doing. I had no plans on saying anything. I knew the baby daddy and I liked him well enough, but I didn't think it was any of my business. Well, at least until Victoria pulled some crap on me. I can't even remember what she screamed at me for, but I got lectured and Victoria told me that I must always tell the truth. Lying was bad, etc., etc. My dad just stood there and let her. Shortly after Victoria's tirade, she'd left to visit the guy in the trailer. Not too long after that, the phone rang. This was 1992, no cell phones yet. It was the baby daddy trying to contact Victoria. Apparently, they'd made plans to meet up in a couple of hours, and he was looking to speak to Victoria. From this point on, I'm going to abbreviate the names like this. Me is me, duh. Dad is obvious. V is Victoria, as previously stated. BD is baby daddy. BD, hey kiddo, is V there? I have a moment of clarity. Me, hi BD, V isn't home. She's at trailer guy's place. Momentary silence, BD. Did you say trailer guy? Me, yes, she left about 45 minutes ago. BD, clearly distressed. Thanks, kiddo. Nothing happened for the rest of the night, at least that I know of. The next day was a complete crap storm. V came home and went straight for me, screaming, crying, throwing things. My dad rushed in and asked what the hell was going on. V, she told baby daddy about trailer guy. How dare you? He broke up with me. He wants nothing to do with me, and it's all her fault. She's ranting and crying. She ended up revealing the truth. While she was visiting trailer guy, BD showed up and banged on the door. Apparently, he knew exactly who I was talking about. Whether they were in the same group of friends or something else, I still have no idea. BD yelled and banged on the trailer till V came out. He confronted her about cheating, whether her pregnancy was even real, if the baby was his, etc. Trailer guy had no idea about her pregnancy and freaked out as well. Both of them completely shunned her and left her standing there with her clothes and her car. She apparently spent the rest of the night driving around till she ended up at BD's house and went crazy on his door, demanding he let her in and take her back, etc. He ended up calling the cops on her and they escorted her off his property with a warning. Eventually, she made her way home and decided to take her anger out on me. V is screaming and asks me why I would do something that would destroy her life. Me, you told me I shouldn't ever lie, so I did what you asked me. I told the truth. V, that isn't what I meant about always telling the truth. Dad, she's right. You punished her for not telling the truth. She only did what you asked her to do. V looked like a guppy. Mouth agape and sputtering, she stormed off. I later found out the BD only agreed to child support and some visitation, but not in her company. I never heard about the trailer guy again. My dad ended up moving to another small place. I ended up moving in with my mom and stepdad for 2 years before moving back in with my dad. And our second story. Jerk vendor gets pissed for being paid a day late, takes us to court, wins, and gets ordered to pay us $200. This happened at work some time ago. Vendor is legal services company we're required to use with one or two of our clients. We prefer anybody else as they're pretty slow, expensive, and have been jerks to us for years, apparently because we had the audacity to not use them exclusively. We missed paying one bill for this vendor on a case, likely got misplaced into the wrong stack. As soon as we noticed this, the next day we paid it, even hand-delivered the check to their office. It was a few days later they call us, demanding that we also need to pay the court-mandated late payment fine. These vendors are to be paid for their service within X days of date it was rendered, or there's a fixed small fine paid to the vendor. By this point, we figured out that in our rush to pay them that other morning, we accidentally also mailed them a second check, paying them twice. We tell them this and to just consider that the fine payment. They didn't care for this, and that they were going to take this to court to have a judge make us also pay them a late fee. We agree because this is going to be funny and get a hearing date calendared. It ended up being a 5-minute hearing. The judge agrees that we need to pay the fine since it was indeed paid late, but because we'd accidentally paid them twice already, he orders them to pay us back the difference of $200 and some change. Judge then spent the next 4 minutes berating them for being petty. So instead of getting paid double, they needed to be jerks and spend time and money for their lawyer to go to court for 5 minutes, then be ordered to pay us back most of an overpayment. Edit. Legal bills are separated by case, client, copy job, etc., and not one single bill for everything at the end of the month. This is because everything gets expended up the chain, and the money will come from various accounts, because insurance. So for this vendor, we had paid X1 of X bills, where X could be anywhere from a few to several hundred. The actual amounts of money here are trivial compared to our billable hourly rates. This is what made the whole thing even more silly. The check that got mailed was likely automatically generated from our billing system, which probably means that specific bill came in late to us. We manually made the check that was hand-delivered. This entire thing really didn't matter and wasn't worth any effort to figure out what exactly caused it happened, as something like this happens maybe once every few years. As I understand it, this particular fine here was a recent regulatory charge because some of them were not getting paid for years, and the entire process of them trying to get paid was many leaking holes in the system. One of the lawyers explained to me in excessive detail, but I've mostly forgotten all of it. That was months ago, and not something that even involves me. They did not sue us over this. It was something like a procedural hearing. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the correct terminology here. It was still a laughable overstep by them, as what they did is the sort of thing for when you haven't been paid for months or years, not 12 hours. It'd be nice if there was a similar regulation on our bills to clients. It's pretty much our industry standard for the last several years, where every bill is automatically cut 15 to 20% by third parties handling bill review. Often takes 2 to 6 months to get mostly fully paid. If you worked in medical billing before, you'd likely know this sort of thing well. Thanks for taking us to court. Feel free to do it again anytime. And our next story. Car snob gets to hear the ugly truth. Not me, but my dad. My dad's a huge Volkswagen fan. Absolutely loves the things. And at the time of this story, about 1987, he drove a Rabbit that, since he's perpetually broke, was mostly rust and duct tape. He and my mom are going to visit my mom's sister and her first husband, both of whom are fairly well-to-do compared to my parents being dirt-poor rednecks. Dad's brother-in-law had bought a brand-new Audi, and my dad parked his Rot Rocket next to it. Brother-in-law comes out and starts bragging about his new Audi, and while my dad would have shrugged this off, he then goes on to bash the Volkswagen in general, and my dad's Rabbit in particular, with both of their wives watching. For those of you who don't know, Volkswagen owns Audi and has owned Audi since the 1960s. Naturally, since brother-in-law is being a jerk, my dad asks him, "Well, if Volkswagens are so terrible, why'd you buy one?" When brother-in-law starts to protest, Dad points to a sticker on the window which had the Volkswagen emblem beside the Audi emblem. He then goes around the car pointing out all the Volkswagen stickers and even pops the hood and starts pointing to all the Volkswagen badges on the various engine components, while his brother-in-law gets increasingly flustered again while both of their wives are watching. Finally, my dad said something basically to the effect of, "We both drive a Volkswagen, you just paid a lot more for yours than I did." I love this so much. This is happening more and more often, too, with the merging of car manufacturers. More obnoxious owners need it pointed out to them, too. And our last story. That time my mom decided that she didn't have to pay rent. This was about 20 years ago in late 2000 or early 2001. My mom was one of these people who simply didn't understand that she had to pay for things. She was famous for running up huge phone or power bills, not paying them, and getting mad at the company when they turned the service off. Her reasoning was that they should understand that she needs the phone or power or whatever. To her credit, I guess she did pay her rent, though she wasn't happy about it. Not in the way that everyone is unhappy with paying rent, but like she deeply, deeply resented it. She took it personally. One day she learned about the legal concept of squatters' rights. That's a thing, and in California it means essentially if you live in an abandoned property and improve it for 5 years with no owner coming forward, you can claim ownership. What she thought this meant was that if she stopped paying rent, she'd become a squatter and have the right to stay. Needless to say, her landlord disagreed. She did eventually give in and start paying her rent again after a couple of months, but needless to say, she didn't stay in that house much longer. 20 years ago in 2000? I'm getting old. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.